Johnny here with Alien Investigations, the show that investigates UFOs, alien phenomenon, and strange news around the world. You know, there is no doubt that in this world there are many strange things around us. They're so strange and unbelievable that neither you nor I or even some of the top scientists can comprehend. They don't know what the hell to make of it or how to explain some of the paranormal activity that happens all around us. And today, it's no different. Because in today's show, we'll be discussing the mysterious Stardust Ranch in Rainbow Valley, Arizona, where there's shocking UFOs and paranormal activity that happens on a fairly routine basis. Now, this is our first interview series on alien investigations, so if you'd like to see more interviews like this, go ahead and leave us some comments below. Today we'll be interviewing John Edmonds, the owner of Stardust Ranch, as well as Magalina Masso, our in-house reporter who actually went there on a 5-day short trip from May 11th through the 15th of 2017. We'll talk about some of the strange things she caught in some live video footage that she later converted to images that we'll be seeing throughout the interview process. And we'll get her first-hand account of what she experienced there on her trip. Now, before we get into the interviews, I want to give you a basic backstory just in case you don't know what Stardust Ranch is or who John Edmonds is for that matter.
Stardust Ranch, Rainbow Valley, Arizona, 1996. Psychiatrist therapist John Edmonds and his wife Joyce, who was an ex-FBI agent, were moving into their newly bought 20-acre horse ranch. The ranch had everything John wanted to begin their journey of taking in and nursing abandoned horses back to health, and he was excited to move in. But even on the first day, things started taking an unpredictable turn. When they arrived on the property to move in that day, they noticed that all of the owner's belongings were still in the house. John called the property agent, and the agent said he would make sure it was all moved in a few hours. Returning later that day, they found all the stuff was moved out of the house, but was now piled into the pool. Furious, John called the agent again, who got in touch with the previous owners. They said they returned to the ranch that day to find all their belongings piled in the pool. They assumed John had moved it in a fit of rage. They refused to take their stuff, and John had to later dispose of it himself. And that was just the beginning of strange events about to unfold. From a man with a machete on the property, strange lights in the skies, gray aliens coming into his house through portals found on the property, ETs trying to abduct his wife, investigators taking pictures of the Greys, seeing huge ships, and using a samurai sword to kill 19 gray aliens over a period of time to defend his family. Since then, Stardust Ranch has become one of the strangest and unheard of properties in the world. We wanted to get a first-hand account from John himself, so we contacted him for a live interview.
Okay, we're live here with John Edmonds, and first of all, thanks John so much for taking the time out to come on Alien Investigations.
No, thank you. Thank you for having me on your show.
You're welcome, John. And I just started this channel in February of this year. It was 2017. So like I said, we don't have many subscribers yet, but the channel is growing daily. So that's a good thing. And another good thing is as our subscriber base increases, everyone will still get to watch this interview and hear your message to get the word out there. So
sounds good.
Okay, so let me just give you a basic overview. So John and his wife, they are doing a remarkable service at Stardust Ranch. They take in mostly abandoned horses and some dogs and other animals. And what they do is rescue them, nurse them back to health, and basically rehabilitate and feed them. So, very good service from them. And, the donation helps to keep the service going, and you can find all about that at hopefulhooves.org. And I will put the link to the website on the screen right here, and I'll also have the link in the description below for you guys. Now, there you'll be able to see some of the horses at the ranch and additional information on what the donation goes for, in taking care of the animals and stuff like that. So it's very cool. Okay, John, I've got some questions for you, and I know some of these questions I'll be asking it repeatedly, over and over again. But in this case, I'm sure some of my viewers, may have never heard of John Edmonds or Stardust Ranch for that matter. So I want them to get a first-hand account, of pretty much the whole story about Stardust Ranch, because it's pretty fascinating stuff of what's going on. Of course, this is an alien investigation channel, so we'll be discussing those terms. So the first question I have, John, if you remember, in your past interview, I think it was in like 2005 with Jimmy Church, he was telling the story of like some food coming up missing and dishes being left in the sink and all that. And so it's like, did you ever think of putting up a camera on a tripod in the kitchen to see if you could like capture something? And did you ever get to the bottom of that situation?
No, we've never been able to really understand many different phenomena that happens out here. We would love to have some kind of a decent high quality camera system that could be placed throughout the ranch house and some of the other locations that we've experienced different phenomena. But quite frankly, every penny that comes in goes to feed the horses and goes to provide medical services for the horses. Running a ranch in this day and age is phenomenally expensive. And, we take care of anywhere from 20 horses, sometimes up to 100. And so, really depends on kind of what's going on with the horse community in terms of, how people are doing. Because when there's tough times, like back in 2008, 2009, we were getting anywhere from 50 to 100 phone calls a week, with people begging us to take horses because they just couldn't, afford to feed them or afford to pay board for them. And so people were desperate, and they were literally just taking the horses out in the desert and surrendering them, to the elements. And the horses were starving to death. They were dying of thirst out there. They were being attacked by wild animals, dogs, coyotes, you name it. And, I just, I'm a very faithful person who loves God and feels that we should all try to strive to help each other and help the animals and, try to, look after the earth as best as possible. And I just, I couldn't just stand and let that happen, so I opened the ranch up to taking as many of the horses that I could. And, we sold off our personal possessions in some cases, whatever it took in order to have the money to be able to feed the horses.
Yeah, I hear you, John. Y'all are doing a very remarkable service with that. So, my hat's off to you guys. There was another fascinating story about when you had first bought the house and when you went to move in that the family was still in the house. So tell us about what happened there.
Well, I had never bought a house before, and, I grew up in Chicago and in Evanston, Illinois, and basically I always lived in apartments. And my dream growing up was to have a ranch, and so when I was like 7 or 8 years old, I would watch WGN and watch, reruns of The Lone Ranger and, Bonanza and all these different, cowboy movies and TV shows. And I thought, man, that's for me. That's what I want when I get older. And so I started saving up money, and, I did any kind of, little odds and ends job here and there I could, to try to get a few bucks, and I'd put it away. And gradually, by the time I got done with college and got done with, all my professional training for my profession, I had enough money to put away, to be able to buy a ranch. So after about a solid year of going out almost every week looking for the right ranch, my wife and I found this place, and I fell in love with it. And I said, that's it. I mean, I didn't even have to go inside the house. I just took one look at it, and I said, wow, this is it. This is the one I want. And I made arrangements to purchase it. And the day that we went to move in, the people that were already living here hadn't moved out, and they'd been paid in full, in cash. And so, I was not real happy about that. And my wife and I pulled up with a rental truck, and it had all our stuff in it. And literally, when we walked in, it was as if we were walking into somebody else's house, because all the stuff was still in it. And I called the realtor, and, I kind of laid it out to him how unhappy I was about that. And I told him, I said, look, we gave up our other place. We are homeless right now because we can't move in, and all our stuff's out in the truck. So I said, whatever you got to do, these people have been paid in full, and they promised and signed a contract with us that they would be out. And he said, well, go out to lunch, go out to dinner, go watch movies, go do whatever you got to. Come back about 8 o'clock tonight, and I will make sure that they have moved out. And I thought, wow, well, that's not a great situation, but it's better than nothing. And, so we did exactly that. My wife and I, we went out, and we went to movies, and then we went to dinner. We finally came back, and we walked into the house, and lo and behold, magically everything was gone. And we thought, well, that's cool. So I was relieved by that, but then I decided to go out into the pool area. We have a big diving pool, very huge pool. And so I went out to look, and guess what? Everything that had been in the house was now in the pool. And I was, oh my God, this is impossible. The appliances, the furniture, all their personal stuff, it was in the pool. And I mean, this is a 10-foot deep pool that is like 30 or 40 feet across by about 60 or 70 feet long. And it was piled up 4 feet out of the water.
Oh.
And I was horrified. And so I called him back, and I said, hey, what's the deal here? Everything's in the pool. I don't want it in the pool. I want it gone. And he said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And he totally flatly denied that everything was in the pool. And I said, well, drive your butt over here and look at it. So he came over, and he looked at it. He was horrified. And I said, you didn't have anything to do with this? And he goes, absolutely not. And I said, well, why would anybody just throw all this stuff in the pool and leave? And he said, I can't answer it. And I said, well, get these people on the horn and find out what's going on. He could never get hold of them. So we don't know what happened. We have no idea at all. But that was the very first strange event at Stardust Ranch.
Wow. Some crazy stuff there. Now, I do know that from previous interviews and stuff and doing investigations on, everything that went on there beforehand and everything, there was an incident of a 14-year-old boy who apparently took his own life on the sofa in the living room. And what I'm wondering is, do you think this could explain some of the paranormal things, like maybe something like that could have been responsible for doing that with the furniture? Like you've seen in some cases where families in certain rooms, the next morning, like in the kitchen, the chairs would be all stacked up in pots and pans and stuff like that.
It would be speculation on my part. The person who did commit suicide was 17, and it was the
17?
day before,
okay.
Yep, day before his high school graduation, apparently. And indeed, the sofa that I'm sitting on right now, conducting this interview with you, I am 3 feet away from where that person shot himself in the face and killed himself.
Yeah, it's crazy.
As far as the rest of it, I have no idea, and one of the things that you'll get used to with me, and that is that if I don't have an answer, I'm just going to tell you I don't have an answer. I don't try to speculate or make up things. We have such a bizarre story in general that it won't tolerate, speculation. We just try to stick to the facts as we know them, and we put it out there, what we see, what we hear, what we experience. But we really try to stick with a pretty narrow definition of what that is.
So, John, I know there's another story about this guy that walks up to the house with the machete, and was this like right the same day that you moved in, or a few days later?
It was the following Monday.
Okay.
We moved in on a weekend, and my wife went back to work. She was working at the FBI at the time, and she went back to work, and I was kind of stuck with having to put everything away and, just deal with everything here. And, it's a big house, and we had a lot of stuff, so it was no small task. And at the time, we hadn't put front gates on the property yet. We were kind of new to the whole situation, and we didn't realize that when you live in the middle of nowhere, it's really a good idea to have big gates out front to keep weirdos from coming in.
Yeah, right.
I use the term weirdo affectionately in this case because the guy that actually walked in on the property, apparently he'd been living here. And he had been living in our tack room, which is about it's about 600-700 square foot building that is in between the first 5 acres and the back 5 acres. And we just use it now as a tack room to keep all our horse gear for riding and things like that in it. But at the time, apparently this man was kind of crashed out back there, and he was just trying to stay out of the sun and try to provide some kind of shelter for himself. And again, I didn't talk to the owners about this person, so I had no idea that he was here. But he came walking the front through the front area where the property begins, and came up the driveway, and he had this great big machete, and he had a piece of some kind of leather handle on it, and he was just kind of swinging it back and forth very casually. And as he walked up the driveway, I thought, well, you know what, I need to go out there and check this out. So I had recently purchased a 357 highway patrolman special, and so I kind of put that down the back of my pants and walked out there. And I didn't do it to threaten him or anything. I just wanted to make sure that, if you're going to go into a situation with a stranger, I wanted to have the dominant amount of force rather than,
Yeah, right.
And so I walked out there and I confronted him and I said, "Sir, what are you doing here?" And he looked at me and he goes, "Well, I live here. Who are you?" And I said, "Well, I just bought the property. I own this property now." And he goes, "Oh, no. The property's not for sale. You can't buy it." And I said, "I've already got a deed of trust to it. I own it. And if you're, what are you doing here?" And he said, "Well, I live here. I live back there in that room, in that building back there." And I said, "Well, what's your purpose for being on the property?" And I told him, I said, "Well, I don't really need anybody here to do anything." I said, "I don't have any horses yet. I don't, this place is just, we don't need you." And he goes, "Well, you are going to need me." And I said, "Why is that?" And he goes, "Well, my job is to kill the monsters." And I said, "What monsters?" And he explained to me that the ranch and the whole area out here in Rainbow Valley was full of monsters. I could never get him to explain to me what the monsters were, but he said I would be really, really sorry. He just looked at me and he goes, "You're going to be so sorry." And, I thought to myself, wonderful. Here I am, living in the middle of nowhere, and the very first person I meet is telling me that monsters live on my property and that I have to, hire him as the monster, pest controller. And, I just told him, I said, "Well, I tell you what, take a few minutes, go grab your stuff and, please leave." And he just looked at me and I said, "If you need a ride someplace, I'd be happy to give you a ride. But, honestly, I just don't want you on the property." And so he walked back there and he packed his stuff in a couple of pillowcases and, toddled off the property, and that was the end of him. I never saw him again.
Oh, yeah, that must have been a weird experience.
It was. I mean, there's nothing about this property that has been normal since we've lived here, and we've been here 21 years.
Crazy. Okay, before we talk about the Greys and how you had to defend yourself against them with the samurai sword and whatnot, it was also said that you actually got to meet a good ET, and after reaching out to others, I think at one point they had came to your house to meet you and talk to you. So what did they look like? Kind of like describe their features, and were they like taller than average, or did they talk different? Or if you seen like these ETs on the street, would you or anybody else be able to tell that they were ETs, or do they look just like past for humans?
Well, what I would say is this, pretty much yes to everything you said. We moved in 96, and for the first few years, I was convinced that I was tough enough that I could deal with the whole situation by myself, just purely by just having sort of a macho attitude and being a hard ass and trying to deal with it. And, I'm not afraid of anything anyway. So I figured that, I grew up in Chicago. I grew up in some pretty tough places. And I figured that most of the people that I'd ever had to deal with in Chicago, or in the many adventures I've had in my life, were probably a heck of a lot tougher than any ET. So I tried to push the issue and just try to run them off myself. And after dozens and dozens of confrontations that were violent and bloody and nasty, I finally, my wife was beside herself, and she was just like, John, let's just throw the keys at the mortgage company. At that point, we had taken a second mortgage, or a first mortgage rather, on the property to try to make some improvements here. And she was just like, let's just throw the keys at the mortgage company and blow this place off. And I said, no, I'm not doing that. I said, I paid cash for this place. I paid a hell of a lot of money for it. I'm not going to just give up. I'm not a quitter. I'm not somebody that gets intimidated. And I said, I will reach out and see if I can find somebody in the paranormal community that can help me. By that time, I'd actually become somebody that was producing and co-producing the Kevin Smith show. And so I had an opportunity to meet a lot of people that were in the UFO and paranormal community. And so, I was on a few strings as far as email went and things like that. And I just opened it up and I said, look, we've got, some serious problems here with direct contact with violent, malevolent ET forces. I need help. If anybody who's in this community, can help us, please get in touch with me and reach out. And so gradually, after getting lots and lots of questions and a lot of people that were very skeptical and thought, nah, this guy's full of it, he's just making this stuff up, finally started getting to some, benevolent people that actually did want to reach out and find out the truth and, see what was going on. So I was very pleased that there was interest from the paranormal community and from various different people that I had, had contact on behalf of Kevin Smith to get them as guests. And, I just said, look, I need help. I don't know what to do. And fortunately, a couple of people reached out and directed me to get in touch with a guy by the name of Dr. Levengood in Grass Lakes, Michigan. And so I began talking to him. And, he told me, he said, well, I believe what you're telling me. Do you have samples that you can send me of one of these ETs that you've killed? And I said, yeah, I do. I've got a big old chunk of it the size of like a big grapefruit. And I've got it in a glass bottle and I've got it stored in the freezer. And he said, okay, well, go ahead and, cut off some of it and prepare it. He gave me directions on how to prepare the specimens. And then I FedExed them to him. And, he took them out to major universities and got them looked at. And that's how we got the proof, part of the proof, that we have the smoking gun to prove that there's alien visitation here on Earth. But regarding your question, to get back to that a little bit, yes, we did have ETs that were positive that came to the ranch, and that was July 30th of 2011. And we had like 4 different groups that were here. We had a person that made the arrangements to kind of sponsor them to the ranch. And that person, just set it up, and literally 2 of them drove out with her. This is Dr. B, Brandy Howe. And then 2 of them, while we were having this meeting, just literally beamed in and appeared right in the living room, right in front of us. I mean, they were literally not there one moment, and the next minute they were here. And yes, they did appear human looking. They were a little too perfect in my estimation. They looked like they had just come from like a talent agency or a modeling agency. Very good looking, just almost too good looking to be normal people. I mean, you would notice them on the street for that, but you wouldn't look at them and say, oh, well, they're alien, or, they're funny looking or anything like that. There was no unusual physical appearance about them, other than the fact that they were all quite large. They were, better than probably, I want to say 6'3", 6'4" in height, and they were just kind of massive. I mean, they look like they could have played football for, some NFL team.
That kind of sounds like the tall whites to me. I did a little bit of reading up on those ETs, and they're usually like tall, blonde hair, blue eyes. Is that kind of like what they looked like?
I didn't really notice them as being like blonde hair, blue eyed. They just seemed big. They're like, I used to work on the oil rigs in the Gulf, when I lived in Louisiana, and most of the guys that I worked with were, pretty massive down there, and kind of the same way I would describe these guys. They look like they were just built. I mean, just big guys. Yep. I used to live in a place called Grand Chenier, and I worked on the docks, and I worked on the ships, and I worked in Cameron Parish and lived in Cameron Parish.
Oh, cool. It's not too far from here.
Morgan City too.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Yep. So I spent quite a few years down there.
I
love the food, love the people. They were awesome.
Yeah, sure enough. I've also heard about these Brillo men that you've seen out there, and have you seen those creatures again? I've also created actually a picture of them. I'll send that to you via email after this interview, so you can kind of see and just let me know if is that kind of like what they look like. But I'm going to show it on the video right now so they can actually see. But yeah, go ahead and tell us a little bit about that. It's been about 5 or 6 years now since we were alone out here. We were in the middle of thousands and thousands of acres of wild Arizona desert, and our house was one of the very few houses out here. And then all of a sudden, about 2009, 2010, a developer came out here, and they started buying all the property around us, and they started putting up your typical, red roof, clay roof home, just suburban. It's like, I moved out here to get away from the city, and what does it do? It followed me. Yeah. And so now we have all these homes around us. And the thing about it is that when it was real wild out here, we used to see these creatures that were literally anywhere from 7 to 10 feet tall, and no distinguishing features other than the fact that it looked, some kind of humanoid figure with arms and legs and a head and a big, abdomen. And imagine like a person wrapped in like barbed wire, or wrapped in some kind of I don't know, like Brillo pad. I mean, I don't know any other way to explain it. And these things, they literally seem like they could walk right through metal fences or horse pens or anything else. They didn't seem to have any kind of three-dimensional, respect for anything three-dimensional. They could just walk right through it. They never tried to hurt the horses, to my knowledge, but they were just out there in the desert. And, a few times, I must admit, I took a pot shot at them a couple of times just to try to scare them away. And it didn't seem to make any difference at all. Yeah, well, it's kind of like shadows or something almost, right?
Yeah, but they were three-dimensional. I mean, you could definitely tell there was mass, that they were, they existed. I mean, they were real. Like they were, some kind of, image that was being projected on anything. They were the real deal. And, we had a bunch of witnesses that saw them. And so I don't know where they went. It seems like when they started, bringing the suburbs out here, a lot of this stuff seemed to subside. I mean, we still deal with the grays. We still see other things. We still got all the UFOs, and it's kind of entertaining at this point to watch how the other people that live around us deal with it, because they don't have a clue. They're either totally oblivious and they pretend it's not there, or they're terrified of it, and they come over and literally trespass, climb the fences, climb the gates, and come and find me and ask me to tell them, what the heck is going on. And strangely enough, the most gregarious of all the people that are neighbors around here are the teenagers. And they are fascinated. They've heard the videos and the various different interviews. And so, it's hard to keep them away sometimes. They just, they trespass and they come on the property and they just bang on the door and they want a full explanation. They're very demanding about it. And I've explained to them that, we have no trespassing signs. That means no trespassing. Mm-hmm. But they don't care. They just do it anyway. So I try to be as polite as I can be, but sometimes it kind of ticks me off. And especially when it's, in the middle of the night, we have people that unfortunately 1, 2 o'clock in the morning have decided that they wanted to try to inspect the ranch. And, I've had to go out there with a gun and let them know in no uncertain terms that this isn't cool. You're looking to get yourself shot by doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's not cool at all. It's a real issue sometimes.
That's crazy, fascinating stuff there, John. Remember hearing about the ETs also trying to abduct your wife, and she actually was like floating from her bed to the actual ship. Tell us all about how that came about.
Oh, well, let's see. This would have been about, I'd have to go back and check my log, but I want to say it was about 2008. And my wife has sleep apnea, and so she's a person that snores real bad, and she has to sleep with a mask and all this other good stuff to, make it so that I can even bother to sleep next to her, because otherwise, I'd have to sleep on the other side of the house. And one night we were trying to get to sleep. She was already asleep, and the 3 of these grays showed up in our bedroom, and I managed to run them off with no problem. But then the next thing was that I got up, because I was already up at that point, and I'm not a person that goes back to sleep very easily. And in those days I was, half exhausted anyway, because I was always trying to kind of watch everything, because I never knew what was going to happen next. Mm-hmm. So a kind of a state of high anxiety for me, at least. And I went to walk back in the bedroom, and my wife was literally floating about 3 feet off the king-size bed that we have, and she was just literally floating in midair, just dead still. And then gradually she began to move forward out of the bed, and still in a prone position, and began being floated right through the house. And I thought, well, this isn't going to end well. And my wife and I had discussions about what she would want me to do if she was ever abducted. And she told me she'd rather be dead than be abducted. She told me, she said, if you end up having to shoot me in order to prevent me from being abducted, I want you to do it. Well, I was horrified by that, but, I accepted her wishes. And so I grabbed an AK-47 with a double banana clip in it, and I proceeded to follow her out of the house. And literally, there was a ship overhead, and it had this very strong cone of light coming out of the bottom of the ship. It was probably 40 feet up in the air above the house, and literally it started to make her body rise up in this cone of light up into the ship. And there was nothing I could do. I had tried to grab her and physically hold her back, and it was such a strong force that it just dragged me right with her. And so I couldn't wake her up. She just proceeded to just go up into the ship. When she got about halfway up, I finally just opened fire on where I saw the light coming out of in the bottom of the ship. And by the time I had finished the first clip and loaded the second clip, the light shut off suddenly, and she just fell. And this is, a good 30, 35 feet. And so I just got underneath her and broke her fall. And she knocked both of us into the ground and knocked us out. And a few seconds or a few minutes later, we came to and looked at me, and she looked around. She goes, what are you doing? And I said, it's not me what I'm doing, it's you what you're doing. You just got abducted. And I said, I was preventing it. And she just kind of shook it off and looked at me and went back in the house and went back to bed and went to sleep. And I thought that was really bizarre, but I kind of got to the point where I suspended all my beliefs in what's strange, because out here radically strange stuff happens. You just kind of have to accept it as normal.
Yeah.
So the next day she woke up and she was all full of bruises and cuts, and she was about as mad as you can get. And I told her, I said, look, you almost got sucked up in a ship and taken to some other planet. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. And she goes, well, what did you do? And I told her what happened. And she's like, wow, you could have shot me. And I'm like, well, you told me that worst case scenario, if you got shot, you'd rather be shot than abducted. And she goes, well, I guess I never thought it would really happen.
Yeah.
Well, you need to be like really, really sure about these things, because I'm just trying to do what you asked me to. So that's how it went.
It's fascinating. Yeah, I just previously did an episode of Men in Black. I haven't uploaded it yet, but it's going to be actually come out before this interview episode here. So, and I do know that you was actually kind of had a first-hand encounter with them. So why don't you tell us about what happened with that?
I've had a couple of encounters with
them. Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I mean, gradually over time, as things got harder and tougher and worse out here, I was never like a gun collector or anything, but gradually I just started collecting guns, because it seemed like it probably was sort of a psychological thing for me to try to restore some kind of sense of empowerment. And so, I bought a bunch of guns over the years. And one day I was sitting out at a picnic table that I have, it's under our carport, and I was cleaning all the guns, because when you own guns, you have to keep up with them. Otherwise, not only are they not safe, but they often jam and do bad things.
Right.
And so, I was out there cleaning all the guns, long guns, handguns, you name it. And toward the end of it, I saw this dark blue SUV, like a Chevy Suburban or some vehicle like that, pull up out in front of our gates. By this time we had nice wrought iron gates that were 7 feet tall out in front of the property. And so I was a bit concerned, because to me that looked like some kind of government vehicle. And indeed, when I stood up and looked over there, I saw the government plates. And these two guys get out of this vehicle and they come around to the front gates, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to have to go out there and open the gates. Well, before I could even open the gates, because these were locked gates, they just literally walked right through the gates. I mean, it wasn't like, they had a key or had any way to unlock them or anything. They just literally walked right through the metal of the gates. And I thought, wow, okay, this is not going to be your typical interview with an authority figure. And they walked up to about halfway up the drive, and then I thought to myself, well, I got all these guns here. I think I'll probably just stand here and let them see the guns, and maybe they'll be intimidated. And they walked right up to me, and the one guy looked at me, and she said, you need to stop posting all of the things that you're posting on the internet about your experiences with UFOs and golden orbs and things like that out here. And I just looked at him and I said, can I see some identification? Why are you just walking on my property? Do you have some kind of a warrant? And the person just totally ignored what I was saying. And he just looked at me, and I looked at him, and I said, you see that table full of guns there? I said, most of those have clips in them. You really need to just turn around and leave. And he just turned around and looked at me again, and he said, you need to stop posting what you're posting on the internet. And then they turned around and left. That was the end of it.
Crazy.
But these guys, they did not look human to me. They looked like, what they reminded me of was the color of uncooked chicken. sort of a lifeless, dull kind of white gray color, and they had on the dark suits and they had on hats, and I mean they kind of looked like the Blues Brothers, except they were like they had no tan at all. And here in Arizona, everybody has a tan. It doesn't matter, even if you work in an office, you still got to go drive your car and you're going to get some sun. So everybody here has at least a little bit of a tan. These guys look like they had just crawled out from under a rock.
Did they have the dark glasses on, John, or no glasses?
They did. I couldn't see anything except the skin.
Okay. I've got a picture that I'm showing right now on the screen up, and I don't know if this is an actual picture of these guys or from a movie or something, but if you look at this picture that I'm showing right now, the skin kind of looks like they're wearing a mask. So if there are aliens wearing masks pretending to be humans, I think this could be some of the cases that are involved with these men in black. Of course, I'm not positively sure about that. I haven't seen any myself, so that's how I look at that.
Yeah, I've seen them on 2 different occasions here, and both times they were exactly the same. I mean, they just, clearly, I mean, they could be robots for all I know, or some kind of non-human, non-ET, being.
Do they talk funny, pauses, stuff like that?
Their movements were kind of like, I mean, I hate to say it, but I'm a psychiatric social worker and a counselor, and I've dealt with a lot of people that were on drugs, and people that take meth. Very often they have kind of jerky movements and sort of mechanical, and that's how these guys kind of came across to me. They were a little bit kind of jerky.
Okay, so the next question is, so those people, of course, you have proof of, the grays. The actual investigators went out there and caught some pictures, so that's all awesome stuff there. So kind of explain about that and how you actually got that portal rock. That's pretty interesting.
Well, the big thing with me is that I've kind of tried to deal with this whole experience from a counselor or my background is in social work and counseling in the psychiatric field, and we make notes about everything. I mean, it's like when you're dealing with a client, anything they say or do, if it's significant, you put it in a chart. And so I've tried to keep pretty meticulous records of everything that's happened, and the idea behind that is I was trying to collect physical evidence. I was trying to collect evidence that I could walk into any court in the United States and literally make a case for this, that I could prove to anybody that needed it, the proof that this is the real deal, that we're not trying to make it up, that, we're not trying to be famous, we're not trying to get rich from this, none of that stuff. And so indeed, with physical evidence, I have collected photographs, I've collected video, we have the DNA samples, we have actual lab samples of the cells themselves that were taken from these ETs, and in the fact that in one particular incident we had on the back of the property a person that came out from California that was in I wouldn't say an official capacity, but they were using equipment, and they had access to a lot of the things that people that work in government would be able to use, like military high-grade laser technology and other electronic technology. And those people were the actual people that recovered the photographs of the grays directly. They were also the people that shined a laser directly on one of these grays on the back of the property. And at that particular moment, that particular gray was holding this rock in one of its hands, and it was so stunned by the laser hitting it in the chest that it dropped the rock and then it disappeared. Well, I walked over and picked up the rock, and so now the rock is mine.
And here is a picture we're showing right now what that looks like, so it's pretty fascinating. Definitely couldn't be duplicated, I would think. of anyone on Earth the way that this thing is.
Well, it's pretty unique in the fact that it's actually smaller on one surface than it is on the other surface in terms of the hole that's in it. And the hole itself is pretty intricate in terms of the pattern. And everybody I've talked to so far has said that you couldn't cut a rock like that without breaking the rock. The technology doesn't exist for that. And so it's pretty unique.
Okay, John, is there any other like recent activities that took place that you would like to share?
The most recent one that was, I mean, we have stuff that happens on a regular basis out here, and by that I mean, you know, we can some kind of activity happen almost every day, and then sometimes we can go 4 to 6 weeks with nothing at all. So there's no rhyme or reason to it. It just the ranch does seem to respond to people that come here that are in different emotional states. You know, I always try to tell people, please, if you're going to visit the ranch, 2 things. I need you to make a donation to Hopeful Hooves to kind of help us to offset the cost of feeding the horses and to cover the amount of time that we put into this thing. And at the same time, I ask people to try to be as spiritually balanced as possible. You know, don't go through like a death in your family, you know, a few days before and then come out to the ranch, because if you're sad, you're depressed, anything that's a strong emotion, the portals here seem to kind of amp everything up. And, you know, we've had people that have gone out of here screaming at 2 o'clock in the morning and almost run down the front gates with their car trying to get out of here. We've had people that have just sat here for no reason at all and become emotionally just, you know, just to the point where they would just begin crying and cry. We've had other people that have had amazing experiences that were very positive, where they've gotten in touch with something that they've been trying to work through, and we were able to help them to do that. It really depends. I mean, things are weird here in terms of the amount of energy that's here. It's very, very strong. It's not passive, and whatever you bring to the situation, you're probably going to get back 5-fold.
Okay, I've had a few people, some of the interviews say exactly what you just said that I've checked out, so that's pretty cool stuff. I myself, I would like to come there whenever I get a chance and check it out. That would be awesome. And of course, we would do some donations. Go ahead, John, go ahead and tell us about the hopefulhooves.org and, you know, how others can donate to help the cause, and give us any other contact info that you want to put out there.
I just tell people that, you know, our situation here is fairly unique. I'm not aware of any other situation that is ongoing, you know, for as long as ours is. I mean, it's 21 years now since this began. And rather than try to become a celebrity or try to, you know, make money off of this thing or anything else, what we've tried to do is just open it up so people can, you know, hear the story. They can come and find out for themselves. You know, we're open. So I tell people, you know, get in touch with me. You can email me, John Edmonds, EDMONDS 411 @gmail is my actual email address. And, you know, and after I make contact with people, usually online like that, you know, I tell people to just go ahead and get hold of us by email, or to go ahead and go on the website and get the information that way. You can go to PayPal and donate directly to Hopeful Hooves. Our email that they ask for is hopefulhooves@yahoo.com. And, you know, I'll be more than happy to send you a receipt, you know, a photograph of the horses, whatever you need. And, you know, it's completely tax deductible. We are a 501c3 charity. So, you know, when you give us money, it gets paid to the horses. I mean, we use it to feed the horses and to do medical work. We don't pay any salaries with it. You know, we don't go out there and buy fancy trucks or anything else. Everything goes to the horses, and we're very grateful.
Okay, awesome, John. I'm going to have all of that information for everyone also in the description and so they can do that. It was a pleasure to have you on the show, John. I'm sure that everyone watching here will be amazed at the stuff that goes on there and continues to go on at Stardust Ranch, and I appreciate you taking the time with us today. I'm going to go ahead and end the interview there. Is there any other things that you would like to say? You can go ahead.
No, I'd just like to thank everybody for listening and for keeping an open mind. And, if you want to know more, reach out and I'll try to answer your questions. Thank you for having me on.
All right, guys, we're here with Magalina Masso, and we're going to be talking about her trip to Stardust Ranch, which was on May 11th through 15th. And if I'm sure you guys, if you haven't heard of this place, you should get to know it, because this is a mysterious UFO and paranormal phenomenon place of stuff that goes on there. So she went out there to check it out, and she brought back a bunch of pictures we're going to take a look at, and she's going to describe what they were and all of the things that she's seen there and all that good stuff for you guys. So we're going to go through that. So I'm going to bring up some various pictures here, and we're going to go through this. So the first one we're going to start with, of course, is the place that she went to. So let's take a look at that, and she can describe what this was the first day you got there?
Yes, I think this was the first or second day that I got there. I think it was more the second day. And this is in front of the property. As you see, it says Stardust Ranch, and the house in the back, that is the main house. But this is obviously outside the gate.
Actually, this is from the road, from across the road.
This is across the street. And I walked across the street because that's like a main road, but he's kind of like in the middle of nowhere. And obviously, like I said, on the right-hand side, that's the main house. On the left-hand side, that's the guest house garage type of deal.
Yeah, and I did hear a story about some guy when he first got there, when he first moved in, about the machete guy.
Yeah,
is there one of? Can you see it from the place?
No, you can't see it from
here. That picture?
I do have one video still up on Facebook, because Facebook was giving us a hard time regarding some of the pictures. I don't think they wanted us to let the truth out there. And the house where this guy claims to was staying was in the back where the horses is, because there's 10 acres there. So it's like a little tiny shed. Now that is across the street where I was telling you that those lights I saw in the sky, there's no communication tower, there's nothing up there. That would be like a light going off or anything. So there was here in this area? Yeah, and that's where John first met the guy with the machete, and that came up, and he was telling me then exactly what he said on video. The guy came up and said, "I killed the monsters." And so I was like always nervous to go out there by myself. I did a couple times, but it's so quiet, it's eerie. Okay, and there also was an incident. I don't know if this picture actually matches, but is this? That's the computer room that I was sitting in when, and that's one of the cats. And that's the computer room that I was sitting in. And when I was sitting in there with John and talking to him, all of a sudden, the picture where I was pointed to towards the door, there was a glass door, and the dogs are in the next room, and the dogs started going off, just freaking out. And the cats started literally attacking the glass. Yes, right there. And they were just trying to claw at the glass and everything. And I'm screaming John, John. And he went out there because I was too scared. And there was a gray, and before he had a chance to kill it, it disappeared. So I didn't see it, but yeah, he came out and he was just yeah, it was a gray, and I'm over here freaked out because there was there's no reason for the cats to attack the glass door like that. They were just it was scary. I see, yeah, we're going to talk about this one. This, if you guys can't see this right here, this is what I find very
intriguing, and it looks interdimensional. As you can see, this plainly looks like a gray's head right here.
And the thing is that
Yeah, tell us about this.
This is the camera. It's a Samsung J7. This is all. I didn't have fancy equipment, so I'm doing my live feed on this, and everybody's like, "What's that light behind you? What's that on the carpet?" And I'm like, and I'm looking as I'm doing the live feed, and I can't see nothing. It wasn't until I went back and watched the live feed and screenshot, I couldn't believe that was there when I was doing it. Everybody could see it, but I couldn't see it while I was doing the live feed. And there's nothing on that carpet, no floral print, there's nothing on that carpet to give any kind of shape like that. And that's one of the things that I want people to understand, is like, if there was a flower print or something, I could understand, they can make excuses. There's nothing there, nothing whatsoever there to indicate why this face should be there.
And you can see in this one here, there's some strange
no
light back there.
And there was actually more pictures, but Facebook took them down. And there was a picture, when one of the pictures was, it almost had two lights, almost like eyes. It was weird, but I don't have it, unfortunately, because like I said, Facebook took it down and I didn't back it up. But there is no light out there. There's no reason why that light should be there. And of course, a few different people said it could have been a gray watching me, because the activity that was going on when I was there was just so much weird stuff the minute I walked onto that ranch. Like, one of the things, those who know me know that I'm pretty much in a wheelchair. I have permanent nerve damage to my legs, my back, and my neck. The minute I came on that ranch, I had a boot on. And I started walking around in my boot. He's like, "You want to bring the wheelchair?" And I said, let me try. And I walked around it. And next thing I knew, I took off my boot. The next thing I knew, I'm walking 10 acres. I'm back in Florida, and not for nothing, I'm pretty much back to being in a wheelchair. I mean, it's 80% in a wheelchair now. So regardless, whatever's going on out there, there's something more out there. Because like I said, when I was out there, I was walking. I didn't have a wheelchair, and I'm back in Florida now. I'm in a wheelchair. So something powerful is going out there.
Kind of energy, huh?
Oh yeah, and which goes to the portal. When I was sitting next to the portal, I actually fell asleep. It's like almost coming out of a hot tub or a sauna. It's this just beautiful, calm and relaxing feeling, and like I said, I fell asleep. It's beautiful. Those are the lights that I saw across the street. There, like I said, there's no towers, no cell phone towers, no wires. There's nothing. They go up on little 4-wheelers, and that didn't move. And that one was like a quarter of a mile from the first picture. And they didn't move like this. They weren't like a plane. It was sitting there. It was just sitting there. And I took those pictures, and then just like out of nowhere, they disappeared. Like, they were probably there for about 10 minutes, and then they both disappeared at the same time. That's the picture that I took where the blood was, where he killed some of the aliens. And you can't see it whole up. You can see the stain, the outlines of the stain, and I think I sent you. Yes, so that's before, and that's when I wasn't there. And then the picture you just showed was the picture after. Yes, that's the one when I was there.
Okay, what about this picture here? What's the significance of this? Because actually I seen another interview where supposedly they had actual pictures of the grays in this vicinity where this little structure thing is from the cameras that I seen. So,
and just in case I say something wrong, I want to put out there, I have a brain injury, so sometimes it's hard for me to remember. I think that's where he said it's a waterfall. It was some kind of waterfall. I have a hard time sometimes remember, but that thing right there, he did say that there is a lot of activity with the grays surrounding that. like there has been graves seen around that certain area right there. So it means, and John can probably answer it better for you. And if I'm not mistaken, and like I said, I might be, but there's a picture he has up on the internet, and it is of somebody that took a picture of a gray, and I'm pretty sure it's right next to that too.
It was close. I noticed that was like in a distance. It was, I think, the interview with Carrie Lynn Cassidy. I think that's how she said. But that was pretty interesting.
That's the spot, because like I said, we pulled up. He wanted to show me that, and he said there's a lot of grays. There's a lot of activity with that. So yeah, that spot that's in front of his house. That's in the side of his house. And I was just taking random pictures. So and again, that's from the driveway looking at the property. And there was a lot of stuff I did have up, and like I said, unfortunately, because of whatever, the Facebook decided to delete it. I didn't back it up. I was uploading it from Arizona, and I didn't have anybody to back it up, and somebody wants to shut us up.
Yeah, so those out there, you guys, if you don't know who John is, this is a picture of him. This is what he looks like, and he, of course, runs the ranch for homeless animals, mostly horses. He has some dogs on there, and also has that, what kind of bird is it? A macaw, I think?
I think it's like a macaw, yeah. I think that's like a macaw.
That's a pretty bird. And,
yeah, he's gorgeous. She doesn't like females, though. And you know what? And the pictures of John doesn't even do justice, seriously. And John is such a nice person, and I know there's a lot of people out there that have negative things to say, but you know what? All I have to say is hit him up. He has no problem talking to you. His phone number's out there. And you know what? If you have any questions, ask him to go out there. He doesn't have a problem with people going out there. He's just very picky who goes out there, because you have to be mentally sound. You don't want no lunatics out there and stuff. But he has nothing to hide. There is nothing to indicate to me that he was lying about anything. Nothing. There was some weird stuff going on out there. I'll tell you, I was just a little skeptic about some of the stuff. When I went out there, everything went away. It's just, there's too much going on out there. I spoke with his wife. Everything John has said about his wife is true. And there's nothing to indicate, like I talked to her numerous times, and like, yeah, she's legit. Tissue, yes. Yes, there was a tissue report, DNA. The scientist that actually was going to expose all this, actually, he ended up dying in a car, some kind of accident, mysteriously. He also has a rock that, it's on the internet. I don't think I sent you that picture, but he has a rock, and when him and somebody else was out in the back with the horses, like he saw an alien and then it disappeared, and then there was a rock there. And I personally have investigated the thing about this rock, and there's no tool you can buy in Home Depot, Lowe's, anywhere that can make the shape of this rock. Nothing. And numerous people have done testing too. There's nothing that you can do, and I'll send you the picture of that also.
I think I just got it. Yeah, in the other interview, they was stating that something about these guys that came out there who actually caught the footage of the grays had some lasers or something, and then as soon as the laser had hit one of them, they had dropped this rock supposedly. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, and Ghost Hunters was out there, and let's just say that when I spoke with John, and he's gonna have to tell you himself, but there's more to the Ghost Hunters adventures. There's some stuff they did not show, and it kind of, and they should have. Like, there is some stuff that they really should have saw, that they should have shown. I personally, with my own eyes, seen some pictures that are not on the internet, and it's up to John to release them to you. But I saw some pictures and I saw some videos, and I'll tell you, like, there's a lot more to this story. A lot more. That's the rock, yes. And I held that rock myself. Like, each little line it's not the same. It looks like it is, but it's not. There's no tool that can make that. No tool whatsoever. And I have done it myself. And these are some of the beautiful horses that he has rescued. There's a whole other part to this. He runs Hopeful Hooves, and he has gone out into the desert, and he has rescued these horses, and they're so beautiful. And he will, you know, it costs almost $30,000 a year to take care of these horses. So yeah, so if anybody likes to donate, like, it's called hopefulhooves@yahoo.com through PayPal. You know, the money he spends taking care of these horses, he's not making money. People think he's doing this to make money. He's not making money. He spends more money than he brings in, that's for sure.
Also, did he tell you about he was writing a book or something? I heard something about that.
Yep, and I wish I could discuss that further, but that's up to John,
Okay.
you know, because I don't know. There's some other stuff in the workings, and you could, like I said, you could contact John, and I'm sure he won't have a problem talking to you about any of that stuff. Or anybody that wants to hit him up, I just don't feel it's my place to mention any of that. But there is a book, I just don't know all the details of it.
Okay, tell us a little bit about these pictures.
Those pictures, those are bruises that, and that's not when I was there, but those are bruises that he got from an attack with the alien. He also has scars on his body too, from an attack he dealt with aliens. Like, I've seen scars. Yeah, those are scratches. This is so weird.
These are from you, right?
These are from me. My back was hurting, so I was laying on the carpet in the living room and on the other side of the couch, and I had sweatpants on. And there is nothing to indicate, and they're not big, but there's nothing to indicate, like, the cats couldn't have done this. You don't understand. There was nobody near me. And then this. I woke up the next morning with those scratches and this, and I'm actually going to the doctors because I don't know what that is. It's like a slice, and it's healed now, but, like, I'm going to have an x-ray because I don't know what that is. Like, it looks almost like a slice, you know, and I don't know, but there's no way a cat could have done it, because the cats are kept separately. You don't want to see, when I was sleeping in the living room, like, they weren't anywhere near me. And I just got my nails done today, so I haven't had them done for 2 months, so they've been really short. There's no reason why I should have that.
Yeah, this is definitely some crazy stuff goes on over there.
And I will also let you know when I go to the doctors if there is anything of this.
You can go ahead and promote your channel for YouTube if you want. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the description for you guys. Also, the name of the Stardust Ranch, and where, if you want to donate some money to them to help them guys out, that'd be great. And we're going to put that all in the description. You can go ahead.
Okay, it's Hopeful Hooves, HOPEFUL HOOVES. I will send you the direct link in case I'm wrong. It's hopefulhooves@yahoo.com, but you could also contact John Edmonds, and his information is on Facebook and everything like that. I have what people would call an adult channel. It's a little bit of swearing, rant trades, there's motivation, all kinds of good stuff. You can find me anywhere, Facebook, wherever. Just type in MAGALINA MASSO. And I just keep it real. And I don't obviously allow a lot of children. So yeah.
Okay, cool. We're gonna put all that for you. I'm gonna put all her contact info, well, not the contact, but all of her sites in the description for you guys, and you can check out where she's at on Instagram, Twitter, and of course YouTube.
Okay, and if I could just throw in a John's personal phone number, and he doesn't have a problem with it being out there if you need to contact him to ask him any questions, donations, and anything. It's 623-692-8605.
Okay, great. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking to everyone.
I love your channel. It's totally awesome.
Appreciate that. It's slowly growing, but it's gonna get there. I plan on doing a lot of more like outside investigations as soon as I get established a little bit more. We're going to plan on taking trips and all that good stuff. But right now, as it is, it's...
Awesome. You should come to Palm Bay, Florida. 30 minutes from here, we have Patrick Air Force Base, and we have all kinds of crazy stuff up in the sky. Seriously, they're working on something out there.
I bet. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and we're going to close this session out. I want to thank again Magalina Masso. Okay, thank you very much for being on the show. And we might have you again if you get some more information. And if you guys out there have anything you want to come on to the show, you want to get an interview with us or what have you, you have some pictures, videos, whatever, send them in to us. We'll be happy to put it up for you guys.
Awesome, great.
Okay guys, this was a really long show, and I don't usually promote long shows, but I had to give you guys these interviews because they were so great. So I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you're not subscribed yet, be sure to hit the subscribe button on your way out because there's plenty of more great stuff to come. Remember guys, keep looking to the skies and have your phones and cameras ready because you never know when you'll see something strange or unexplainable. I'll see you right back here every Wednesday with fresh new episodes of Alien Investigations.